Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Croc 2. One level down and one to go, which seems really odd, but yeah, this is how the Inca village works. We've stocked up for our last level, and this is actually the last level that we actually need items for. All we need is a blue gummy saver, candy graze, and our final clockwork gobo. I've also gone ahead and maxed out my health, because other than those two you get really early on, you don't get any more heart pots from any other level in the rest of the game. So if you'd like to be a little bit better off in terms of health, then go ahead and max up to 9, because, well, you should have the crystals for it, unless you've been continuing a lot, which means, well, you don't. Because they are expensive. They're 250 crystals each from Swap Meet Pete. But anyway, our next level has to do with what the Inca king was talking about in terms of frogs. Now, it's one thing I didn't mention before is that apparently the inventor, professor, whatever he decides to go by, apparently lives in the Inca village. So if anybody is concerned about where he is, it's, well, this village. I wonder if King has anything else to say about the inventor. Longer than the caveman gobos? Because I don't believe that. In the night, you say? Well, I'm going to be taking a look at that soon enough, but we still have a level to do. You probably don't pass a lot of time that way. Yes, but he also says what the level is also going to be like. It's going to be a waterfall. It's kind of a cool waterfall, to be honest. But there are frogs. Well, let's see how bad they are. Couldn't be too bad. It's time to head up the waterfall. In terms of being an Inca level, you got pretty much two different kinds. You have an outside with some temples in the distance, and then you also have within the Inca village itself. Personally, I prefer this level a lot more, actually, in terms of style to it. The music is also a lot more cool, in my opinion. I just kind of like it. It's... I guess it's just like the pace and the mood for it. Especially with like the whole waterfall being like a center point for this level. You're going to be climbing the waterfall throughout the entirety of this level, so it has a degree of verticality. And before I get any further with myself, there is another enemy. It's a blowgun Dante. So instead of Spanish conquerors, now we're dealing with natives that are not Incan. The waterfall itself you can't go behind, though, which is, I guess, a point against it. There should have been something cool behind the waterfall, but no, it's just a wall. So you're just going to be crisscrossing in order to get up cliffs and whatnot in order to reach, well, the next part of the level. It's this kind of area that kind of reminds me of an unreleased level for Crash Bandicoot 1. There were a bunch of unreleased levels for that game, including a level that had you climbing up an actual waterfall. There was a bunch of levels like that, but not one in that sort of style that this one tries to create. And in terms of getting low ground, Croc certainly does that by just going underneath enemies. This also piece of cave music I think I like the best out of all of it. And this rope looks different. You think? Oh my. He seems dead inside. Yeah, but we need to use the snake's tail in order to get across. There's no more ropes. And there's a lot more water going on in this level than pretty much anywhere else in the game. And here's the frogs that the Inca King mentioned. They're more of a threat close up, or more of a threat going away, because close up they can't really target you all that well. Now, while we're in the water, I actually want to get an interesting fact out of the way, and this has to do with pretty much, well, going in the water in general. As you can see, well, you can't swim and go underwater like you could in the last game. All you can do is jump around, and that's honestly the fastest way of getting across, which is kind of dumb. But the interesting thing is that there was an underwater level planned for Croc 2. Either it was never finished, or it was scrapped for time. Really the only place I was able to find any sort of footage for this was actually a Croc 2 commercial. Here's a screenshot of what was able to be presented, and I'll put a link to the commercial down below. And don't worry, this raft is nothing like the minecarts, but it is a little bit pointless. I don't really get it. That commercial, though, is very 90s, so I'm gonna brace yourself right now. Now, we got this little situation up here. 3 floating platforms and a box. We're gonna need the box to triple jump onto because we can't get enough height. But here's the thing. We need to be quick. Why? Because once we do this, crystals are just gonna be sitting on the ground out of a box. And one thing I haven't pointed out before is that when you break open a box and crystals are just kind of laying on the ground, eventually they will disappear. And it doesn't take long for them to disappear either, so you gotta be quick. It's kind of an annoying thing for it to actually do. And whoa, that draw distance really messed me up a little bit. But now we're slightly higher in terms of the waterfall. It's kind of this cliff jumping that, in order to get higher, that I just kind of like in terms of the design of this level. And a little bit of unorthodox using of the environment in terms of platforming, actually. From a rock to, well, a tree coming out of the wall. Cool. But then there's also trees like this, and whoa. I never noticed this before. What has happened to this wonderful tree? I think some meshing polygons didn't really work because there's some overlapping. It's like when you take paper and you're trying to make a 3D object out of it. The tabs just don't go together properly. Oh boy. I don't know, the waterfall's really simple, but I like it. So in terms of being the last relatively regular level in this game, I like it. Like, it's just got a lot... It's cool. Like, the snakes are a bit hit or miss, depending on whether you like snakes with derpy faces who are dead inside. I don't know. It's fine with me. These little blowgun Dantinis, though, it feels like they're of different sizes, and that's something I'm not really sure why. Because I think the first one was the biggest of them all, or either that or my eyes were deceiving me. But yeah, in terms of this level, even this late in the game, it's very solid. It's very neat. I do enjoy it. Now it's time for our final Clockwork Gobo section. This Gobo section is, well, it's pretty neutral, actually. You don't get a lot of power to start off with, but the route is fairly linear. So it depends on like how sharp your movements are in terms of getting to the colored crystal all the way over here. Because again, you don't have a lot of extra juice to use, so use it wisely. And with that, we have no more use for any items in this game. Thank you, Swap Meet Pete, for being a businessman. But we don't really need you right now or anymore. This tree also has the same issue. They probably all have the same issue, actually. He randomly shot in a weird direction. As for the final Golden Gobo section, this one is certainly a challenge because, well, I know what the first time I did this, it was a little bit of a challenge because, well, you're dealing with snake's tails instead of tight ropes, so it looks a little bit different, and if your depth perception is a little bit off, doing all of these 5 in a row, you're gonna have a little bit of an issue. And by issue, you're gonna be falling into the pit and failing, and then you have to do the level over again. Pretty much the only sour taste in the mouth is doing the Golden Gobo section, which is unfortunate. Is this one the same? Yep. Okay. At least it's consistent. Can't fault it for that. Also using rocks as just like stepping stones, pretty good. I don't want to go up here just yet. There is a box over here, pretty close to the end, because there's only 5 crystals left. Now if you remember, what we needed to do in terms of up here is that apparently a machine that the inventor, Professor, made is up here that powers the Inca village down below. Probably using the power of this waterfall, and we gotta fix it somehow. It's across this little area of the waterfall here. I think it would really suck if you, like, fell off at this point, but I'm just gonna say now, after this, and we fix the problem up here by pressing the button up at the top here, it's gonna go straight into the next level, so look at this. Yeah, it's just poof and stuff. So I'll see you after the little cutscene, because we're just gonna go straight headlong into things. Oh, wouldn't that break something? Or I guess not.
Huh?
Welcome to Dante's Peak! We now have access to that airplane that the professor was presumably working on at the beginning cutscene. Don't know why it was in there instead of over at his shed, but I guess he moved it. I don't know how. But you might be wondering, hey, why are we fighting Baron Dante now? This doesn't really work. No, it doesn't. I really don't have any defense for that. We just kind of are. And he's also the size of King Kong. He also doesn't look like he knows what he's doing. Well, okay, he disappeared. But we're flying an airplane, and I think that's pretty good. Just pretty much holding down the X button makes it shoot, and then it's inverted control, so if you hit up on the control stick, you go down, down you go up. Pretty much self-explanatory, and all you're doing is just kind of going and dodging the bombs on balloons, which Baron Dante is able to throw at you, and also his fireballs. You gotta hit his belt buckle, because that's the only shiny thing on him. Right there. But you have to get in close, because, well, your draw distance is going to be the depth view. Now, before this boss fight's done, I still think he looks like a grandpa, like he does. You also take no recoil with damage. But let's look at a small promotional artwork, because now we have we have looked at all of the vehicles. Summer vacations! More adventure than most summer vacations. I wouldn't agree. But there's two interesting things about this that we will never see in this game. Well, one thing, which is Croc, at the bottom right it says, Croc picks up and throws objects to discover hidden clues. We never discover hidden clues at all. I'm just gonna say that right now. And the other thing is... Bye! How did we get here? I'm just gonna say that right now, because hey, there's the professor. But I think this is the problem with having Baron Dante be like a creature of magic now from hell. Is that he can do whatever he wants. Technically, I don't think we even fought Baron Dante at all. We just fought like Phantom Baron. Phantom Dante. But now we have to help the inventor in what is, I would pretty much officially call World 5. And why can't I go with you? Why? Get... Great. Okay. So this level is called the Bride of the Dungeon of Defright. If you're not familiar with the Dungeon of Defright, it was a level back in the first game in World 4 that was pretty much consisted of all the mini-games in the first game. Not really a great level, because if you did something wrong, you were royally screwed on saving all of the gobos. This is pretty much the same idea. A bunch of puzzles. There's 5 puzzles in all. First one is making a bunch of steps. Now this is pretty much rather simple. You just kind of have to make steps like so. Use the pumps and just jump on them, and just for safety's sake, do a triple jump at the end. And here's where the rest of the Inca gobos are. But if you do it fast enough, at the bottom of the screen, there was 20 crystals just kind of sitting there. You have to do this each room really fast in order to get the 20 crystals. Because if you take your time doing them, those crystals will slowly deplete, eventually leaving you with 0. You have enough time, like unlimited time, in order to do them all. But if you're wanting all 100 crystals like myself, you need to do it quickly. This one relatively isn't much of a puzzle. It's just pretty much make a route for the bomb box in order to get over to the box that the gobo is in. Arguably the easiest, but probably the most time-consuming because you have to stomp on specific squares 3 times. Once you make the route, the box just kind of goes by itself. Thanks! Good thing it didn't explode and cause collateral damage. Alright, so, in terms of throwbacks to the first game, we have the runaway box. Yeah, this one runs away, except they made it a little bit more challenging because it runs away from you and doesn't hit the walls. So the cheap tactic that you're able to use in the first game, you can't use here. Instead, what you have to do is pretty much get close enough to it that you're able to go pretty much perpendicular to it and jump on it and force it to stay put. It's a little bit annoying your first time, but once you get the hang of like the strategy that I've just implemented, then you should be okay. Also, I don't think the time limit on that one is very strict, so you won't be losing crystals that quickly. The next room, though, is a different story. This is a foggy room. What we have to do, according to the gobo, is catch bombs out of thin air and blow them up in the cage. The bombs appear randomly. it's going to be a miracle in order to find them because, well, you're supposed to be looking for, like, shadows, and they're kind of hard to find because of the fog effect. So, really, the strategy that I have is to manipulate the camera to look higher than it can, and hopefully, fingers crossed, you're close enough to the bomb in order to grab it. The time limit is really strict with this one, so if you're not... I think you only are able to miss one before the crystals start ticking down, which is so annoying. This last one, though, relatively easy, except you're using this thing, which I don't like. All it really is that you have to hit the pump depending on where it is. The pump is actually lifting up a platform in order to get to the gobo in waiting. So yeah, a lot more fun than summer vacations, right? The only thing, I think it's just because of the picture that I found, but I do want to touch on it, is that apparently on the bottom there's a trademark copyright date of 2006 from Marvel. That kind of gets me a little bit confused and makes a big question mark on my head. I don't know. I'm going to be pondering that for about the next 2 seconds. Because we finished up here, and that is the 5th and last challenge and gobo. So, we have all 100 crystals in the Bride of the Dungeon of Defright, and this door will lead us straight into the next level of World 5. There is no hub world or anything. So next time, we're going to be going up a tower to fight what the professor called Goo Manchu, the goo monster. And after that, we're finally going to be taking on Baron Dante proper. See you next time, everyone, for the finale.